Thanks, Simon. And I like how I end up wearing the same outfit like 3 years later in my profile picture, which goes to show how much effort I put into my wardrobe. So that's one of the beauties of radio. Anyway, thanks for joining us this morning for DSA Virtual Access, and welcome to another sizzling Seattle summer, irrespective of today's cloudy and cool conditions, of course. Now, summer in Seattle can make up for all those dark and rainy months, and I still think how it must have been quite a shock for the early non-native settlers who had arrived at Alki during a big deluge in November 1851, and who, as we know, wisely relocated to what's now downtown Seattle in February 1852. I wish I could see their faces when those first hints of this sizzling Seattle summer of 1852 first appeared, with the sun climbing over the Cascades and those strange offshore winds bringing hot, dry weather, which should have been unimaginable in November. Now, I promise not to fixate on Seattle history, but we are talking this morning about some very long traditions and very historic places in our city's story of growth and development, and we're talking about the future as well. Now, professional sports drew crowds downtown on many notable occasions in the distant past, from the Stanley Cup Championship back in 1917, Pacific Coast League Championships back in the 30s, Western Hockey League in the 60s and 70s, and then those big booming years for professional sports when the Sounders and the Seahawks and the Sonics and the Mariners saw their first appearances, and then we saw the first All-Star game in 1979 and the Sonics winning the World Championship. And then that other Major League All-Star game back in 2001. Of course, the Seafair Festival began more than 70 years ago as the ultimate expression of post-World War II community building and celebration, and it's evolved again and again to adapt to a changing city. And of course, Seattle Center, which has its roots as a public gathering place for entertainment and sports, in the construction of what's now McCaw Hall back in 1828 and Seattle High School Memorial Stadium back in the 40s. It's also changed and evolved to adapt, first as host to the 62 World's Fair, then for a series of updates and upgrades to continue serving Seattleites in the region in that same 21st century that the World's Fair was all about imagining and celebrating, and to host big events like Bite of Seattle and Bumbershoot. Now, that's enough about the past. Now, to go deep on the sizzling Seattle summer of 2023 and beyond, we couldn't have a better panel. Eric Corning is president and CEO of Seafair. That's a position he's held for more than 4 years, returning to run the organization after a 9-year stint as chief operating officer. As president and CEO, Eric oversees and manages both the Seafair Festival and the Seafair Foundation. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Washington. Beth Knox, president and CEO of the Seattle Sports Commission. She joined the commission in 2020. Before that, she served as president and CEO of the 2018 Special Olympics USA Games, and she was president of Seafair for more than a decade. She has a bachelor's degree from Grand Valley State University. Chelsea Riddick-Most is director of programs and events for Seattle Center, and Chelsea's been in this position for 2 years, overseeing arts and community programming, cultural programming, and event sales. After graduating from Howard University, she worked for the NBA in New York City and then spent 13 years with Viacom CBS. She's a native Seattleite and also an Emmy Award-winning producer. Now, we have some questions we prepared in advance, and we'll get to audience questions throughout the program as well. Sure to use the chat function or the question function. I'll keep an eye on those. We'll all keep an eye on those, and I'll try to bring those into the conversation when it's appropriate. And the panelists will be talking to each other as well. But there's so much to talk about this incredible, sizzling Seattle summer. I may start with sort of a general question. Maybe that's for you, Beth. Maybe the thing that's most on the horizon is the Major League All-Star Week. Can you give us kind of update on that, any developments and what we should be looking to expect with that event?
Yeah, it's a really big deal for Seattle because this is the first premier sporting event that Seattle has hosted in a very long time. We did have the Special Olympics USA Games in 2018, but it's been over 20 years since we've had a Major League Baseball All-Star game. So it'll take place July 7 through 11. Lots of activities are happening in and around the premier events of the Home Run Derby and the Major League Baseball All-Star Game itself. So it's a great opportunity for Seattle to be on that national stage, to have lots of opportunities for the general public to attend activities that are affordable. We have the Play Ball Park Fan Fest. Tickets only $25. That'll take place at Lumen Field. We have a number of downtown activations working with the DSA and Friends of the Waterfront. So you'll see activations throughout the parks in the downtown area. And then, of course, there's a number of activities that will also still take place in T-Mobile Park. outside of the two big events. We'll have Friday night of that week is the Swingman Classic, which is hosted by Ken Griffey Jr. and it features baseball players from Division I, historically Black colleges and universities. And we'll have the futures game, celebrity softball, all of these activities. So it's going to be a really big impact and bring a lot of folks to downtown Seattle.
And I mean, is it possible to peel back the curtain a little bit and say how long it took to get that to happen? Like how far back does negotiations or pitching or whatever it took, and how did that come together?
Well, the process usually begins several years in advance. It can be anywhere from 2 to 5 years in advance, where a city will make it known that they have interest in hosting these events. So that's the first step. Usually there is a process called expression of interest where you say, yeah, I'd be interested in bidding on this. Doesn't mean you have to, but it means that you want to and you're considering it. So that's the beginning phase. And then they'll put out an RFP, the team that you're working with, the venue, the city of Seattle, Visit Seattle, the Sports Commission, we all collaborate on that bid application. And then it goes into the pool of consideration by the league or the conference. They'll come out and do a site visit and determine, can the city, is it ready to host an event? Do you have enough hotel room nights available? Do you have all of the entertainment and attraction to entertain the fans while they are here for that game? So there's lots of factors that go into the consideration before a city is actually selected.
Now, I like to think that downtown Seattle has a certain exceptionalism compared to other cities. Do we know, was there anything that particularly why we got this particular year's event? And was there some particular factor that sets Seattle apart in terms of how other cities have put on All-Star, Major League Baseball All-Star games?
Well, there's one factor in some of these events, and I think the MLB All-Star is one of them, where there's a certain level of rotation that for cities who are interested, is it your turn? Is it about your turn? And certainly Seattle was in that position since it's been over 20 years since the last time. But the thing about Seattle that is so unique that we can offer that many places can't is we have that compact urban environment where the arenas and the stadiums are downtown. It's walkable. We have the light rail and metro system that makes it really easy to access it. We have so much to offer by way of the attractions around the city. Certainly we have Seattle Center and the Space Needle and those kinds of attractions, but the waterfront, access to the rural areas, the mountains, all of that makes us very attractive. Now that's important because we are also an expensive city to host an event in. Our hotel rates are higher. The rates for the convention center, those are higher. And we don't currently have a mechanism to be able to offer concessions when we put in our bid. For instance, use an example, Fargo might be able to say, and we're going to give you the convention center for free.
But then you'd have to be in Fargo, though.
That's precisely the point. So that's our job as a sports commission and working with Visit Seattle is to highlight why Seattle is still the best city to host these events in spite of the cost of doing the event here. We have so many other things to offer.
Okay. Now, of course, the Major League Baseball All-Star Week, that's as you said, it's a rotating event that comes around, every few decades, ideally. And Seafair, on the other hand, is in its 74th year. It's the quintessential post-World War II celebration of what Seattle was all about and what the city represented in that boom years right after in the late 40s and early 50s. Now, of course, we're coming out of a pandemic, knock on wood. So, Eric, give us like a status. What's the status report for the health and welfare of Seafair in 2023?
Yeah, well, actually, it's really exciting. You had mentioned earlier about Seafair being this ever-evolving festival, and that what the Seafair that they put on in the 1950s and 60s and 70s isn't exactly the same Seafair that we're doing today. But some of those traditions, like the Torchlight Parade through downtown Seattle, we've made an adjustment to that to be able to have it start at 3 in the afternoon instead of 7:30 in the evening on July 29th, because we wanted more families to be able to come down and be able to enjoy downtown and be a part of that parade experience.
Wait a second. How tough was that decision to make? How long did it take to make that decision? Did you have like were there two sides kind of pushing for keeping it the way it is or changing it, or give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain on that process? I'm curious.
Yeah, actually, it was there was some push and pull from a variety of folks who that the tradition of having the parade come through at 7:30 in the evening and being in the dark in downtown, and the realities around that we want to be family friendly and be able to have everyone be able to come downtown and enjoy this parade. And the where downtown is at this moment, we think it's the right opportunity for us to be able to to be able to entertain folks and be able to and really what Torchlight's all about is that celebration of all the neighborhoods, and it brings all these disparate parts of Seattle together, folks around the Northwest with those parade floats and whatnot, and we're looking to get to the widest audience that we can.
So give us a picture of what the festival, the entirety of the festival will be like this year, and what the focus is.
Yeah, great. So we will kick off on the 4th of July out on Lake Union and doing the 4th of July fireworks. And that will take place at about 10:20 in the evening. We will then move on to Alaska Airlines Torchlight Parade, which will be downtown on July 29th. We have that will again start at 3 p.m. at the Seattle Center and then move all the way down to Seneca Street through downtown. Following that is the Seafair Fleet Week. Will be centered at Pier 46 this year, which is new for us, right outside of T-Mobile Park. So we'll have opportunities to be able to do free ship tours with the Navy and the Coast Guard, even the Canadian Navy's coming down to be able to join us for Fleet Week this year. You'll see sailors throughout town on their Liberty tours and a number of other special events that happen around that. And then our final weekend is Seafair weekend with the Boeing Air Show featuring the U.S. Navy Blue Angels. We have a tremendous air show that, including the U.S. Army Golden Knights parachute team. We'll have some Growler F-18s coming in down from Whidbey and a number of other air show acts, and followed by the unlimited hydroplane racing, the Home Street Bank Cup. And what's new this year? Well, it's a tradition that we brought back is the Gold Cup, which is the oldest motorsports trophy in the nation. That's for boat racing, and that has not been here in Seattle since 1985. It's been 38 years since we've had that trophy here in Seattle to be contested. It was Chip Hanauer actually was the one to last win that trophy here in 1985. So we're pretty excited about having that come back to join us at Seafair weekend.
And I know you guys had a pretty rough go of it in the couple of the pandemic years. I think you were canceled in 2020, and were you canceled in 2021 as well?
We were, yeah. So
Okay.
as a small nonprofit, the realities of COVID meant that we had to let our entire staff go, and so we were during COVID. We had some fantastic sponsors: the Boeing, Home Street Bank, Amazon, Alaska Airlines. Those folks really helped keep Seafair alive during those couple years with our virtual festivals. And in 2022, the kind of push pull of like, are you really going to be able to have a big festival this year? Will COVID allow it? Are we going to be able to do this or not? I don't know if you remember that feeling coming out of from 2021 and 2022. It just the inertia to be able to get Seafair going with all the people and activities and everything that needs to be able to make it happen, to make a go of 2022. We did that. We put a couple events on hiatus, and like the Torchlight Run and the Milk Carton Derby and whatnot, they'll come back in the future. But with a small team that we hired back in, a lot of new faces, and our tremendous volunteer corps, that there's more than 3,000 of them that help us put on this festival every year. It's really a tribute to all of those things together that really help put Seafair on and be able to continue the tradition.
Yeah, because I think even before the pandemic, Seafair at times has gone through these sort of painful evolutions where people have talked about, are the hydroplanes still relevant, or are the Blue
Yeah.
Angels too noisy? I mean, no, of course not. The answer is no, they're not noisy enough. So what did did the pandemic give you a chance, or I don't know, force you to sort of think about some of that evolving a little faster in some areas, or making some decisions that had been kind of in the background for a few years, that kind of give you the, not the excuse, but give you the cover to sort of make changes that had been in the flow for a while?
Yeah, so strategic planning wise, it definitely had us be able to take a step back and be able to talk about, like, as this festival evolves, much like it's not exactly what the festival was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. What do we want it to be as we head into 2023 up till 2030? One of the things that we see are these generational changes happening in the city, like the waterfront, and what the special place is going to be. It's been under construction, which seems like forever, and is by 2024, 2025 should open up and have this fabulous place for us to be able to celebrate. And we're actively speaking with the waterfront community and the city about moving the Torchlight Parade down to the waterfront. We'd love to be able to do more activities and have more of a waterfront festival that might stretch 2, 3, 10 days across there, to be able to celebrate Fleet Week and Torchlight, that they're all in this co-located in that same venue, and be able to do celebration like that in a 2024, 2025 timeframe, when we have the realities of there are cruise ships with thousands of people coming on and off there, which sounds awesome for your audience, but also logistically is challenging, because you have to be able to make sure the cruise ships can come in and out. But I think that all of these things are very exciting for us to be able to think about these events in new and different ways. The Seafair weekend is another one that we think about a lot. Of the are the hydroplanes, are they relevant or not? I don't think that's as much of the question of, like, what is the entertainment you're having down there that weekend. This is more of a party on the lake. Like, this is a Seattle institution. That log boom party's been going on out there since the 50s, and it's a thing that a lot of folks who grew up in this area will have these stories about, like, well, I remember when I was younger, I was on the log boom, I had these experiences, or I remember when I was at Seafair. And again, that's when fundamentally, when we get down to it, that's our whole job here, is for celebration, providing memory making opportunities, and allowing people not only to watch on the sidelines but participate in Seafair, whether they're in the parades, in a run, or just coming together on the 4th of July, sitting on the side of the hill at Gasworks Park.
Yeah, I thought the log boom was one of those if you remember it, you weren't there kind of places, but maybe I'm misremembering myself. All right, Chelsea. Now, Seattle Center is home to so much stuff year round. One of my favorite places in the city. One of the most underappreciated venues in the city for this. Just the sheer diversity of the venues there and the organizations there, and the programming that's offered year round. And summer, of course, is that's when it all comes together for Seattle Center. So in this sizzling summer of 2023, what's the update from Seattle Center?
So we are really excited because, first of all, let me just say that I'm a fan of this campus. I grew up on this campus, spent time here during the holidays, would catch the bus to come down here and hang out with friends. So I am such a cheerleader for this space, and it's very exciting that we kind of sit right in the center of all of this activity. So we're really excited about bringing back some of our staples, which have been on hiatus, like the Bite, which is happening July 21st through the 23rd. And then we're bringing back Bumper Shoot, which we're really excited about, and working with New Rising Sun to bring that back September 2nd through the 3rd. And then, of course, we are kind of this transformative space for the city. So every July 4th, we have our naturalization ceremony that takes place, and on the same day we have a Black Book in the Park, which is an organization that promoting company that we worked with for several years, and we'll be enjoying an EDM concert. And then on July 29th, we have for the first time ever, we have an Afrobeats concert that's going to be taking place. So I say this, and I really mean that. We have a little something for everyone. And when we're not giving events in the summer, it's really, honestly, it is a nice place to just be able to come down, enjoy music at the International Fountain, be able to walk the campus, have time at the at the mural at our amphitheater, which I completely forgot to mention. We have movies at the mural, and then with one of our resident orgs, KEXP, we have concerts that they're hosting on our upper northwest courtyard. So there is lots going on the campus, and we're really excited that we have this opportunity to finally come back.
Let's talk about Bumbershoot a little bit more right now, because it's the 50th anniversary. Bumbershoot was a few stumbles back in the previous decade. There were sort of not exactly an identity crisis, but it was in transition and in flux with the rise of so many other music festivals and other big music venues in the summer and everything, that the economics were just changing. What's the, I mean, give me who's Bumbershoot designed for? Who's it designed to attract? What is it, a hometown audience? Is it meant to draw people from far away? Kind of give me the user profile for Bumbershoot.
Yeah, I think Bumbershoot went through the same transition that our city has gone through, and similar to other big cities, right? People are engaging with the things that they enjoy differently. And so what we're seeing now is that transition. We're a big, small city. And I always think that we have to show up differently. And so what New Rising Sun is doing this year with Bumbershoot is they're really focusing on doing different activations around the city annually. And so what that means is they are connecting with artists in our community. They're doing pop-ups and satellite activations around the city. And then we're doing the big Bumbershoot that everyone is accustomed to. It makes sense. We're in a very, very competitive market, and looking at how we engage our consumers and our fans differently is important. I think it is definitely directed at the local community, working really hard to amplify our artists, whether they are musicians or whether they're visual artists. They're working really hard to get back to kind of the purpose and how we started, which is taking relevant up and coming talent and giving them a larger platform to show their artistry.
And what kind of attendance do you expect for Bumbershoot this year?
I think it's honestly it's kind of a wait and see. I'm going to be cautious about putting numbers out there, but I will say that we've gotten some really good response. We've got great feedback. I think the city is anxious about bringing back those tentpole events, those staple events that really identify and kind of give a branding to our city. So we are optimistic, and we're hoping that people are going to show up and support what we're doing. We're really excited about the opportunity to be able to bring this staple event back to the city.
Yeah, I mean, because we're talking about economics on one part of this conversation, but a huge part of it is local culture, especially for events like Seafair and Bumbershoot and so many things that happen, every year at Seattle Center. This is about local culture, in addition to having economic impact, which of course is important. And these other big events, whether it's an All-Star game or something else, those don't happen every year, and those are more about economics, but they're about culture as well. I want to talk about what's going on downtown at Westlake Park and Occidental Square this summer, and want to see if Jen Casillas, can you join us? You're the Vice President of Public Realm and Ambassador Operations for DSA.
Yeah, sure can. Thanks, Felix. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, wanted to pop in here and join our esteemed panel and chat a little bit about what's going on downtown, especially Westlake Park and Occidental Square and a bunch of other spaces in between. So we have a little something for everyone, just like Chelsea said. And we're working with Eric at Seafair, and we're working with Beth at the Sports Commission, and all of our all of our work is kind of, has a shared goal and intertwines and connects with each other. So it's great to see colleagues on the call today too. So just a quick update here. We will start our Downtown Summer Sounds concert series on Friday, July 7th, which also coincides with, unofficial kickoff of All-Star Week. Our concert series is in its 44th year. We have 37 local acts lined up to take place all over downtown. So yes, in parks that we manage, but also parks we don't manage, and also public plazas and right of way and all spaces throughout the downtown. So that will start on July 7th with a large kickoff concert in Westlake Park. Big, shutting down the street, lots of activity. Want to really kick it off there on the late afternoon on the 7th, and then runs through September 8th. So all summer long, we'll be having free music open to everyone to come and enjoy. So again, like it is also the unofficial start to the All-Star Week, and we are leaning in with a full schedule of programming for All-Star Week between the dates of July 7th and July 11th, especially Occidental Square. It will be extremely busy. Little highlights here to share. We will have an outdoor mobile arcade with video games. So think Pac-Man, Frogger, Centipede, the Pack, caricature artists, face painters. We're going to put in a mini golf course. We'll have DJs. We will have another Downtown Summer Sounds concert in Occidental during those days on All-Star Day on July 11. We have a beer garden, and then we will have a pop-up roller rink. And all of this is open for everybody. It's open, it's free, except the beer garden part, for everyone to enjoy. So whether you can attend different All-Star events or not, these are open for everyone to just be a part of the experience. So that's Occidental. Not to forget Westlake. We've got a food truck fest going on with a lot of different food trucks, a lot of different types of vendors, treats, food, like meals, all sorts of ice cream, different fun things, hosting concerts in Westlake, music, buskers, all the things will be happening. So it'll be very busy. That's where you want to be that July weekend. You want to be downtown. Then continuing through the summer, we have activations and programming. We have big sports events coming up, whether they're in the city or across the world, like Women's World Cup. So we're leaning into some of those and trying to bring some local, some opportunities to participate in those in some way, shape, or form, even if if they don't happen to be here and they happen to be in time zones and long flights away. Also continuing our dog days in the summer, a lot of pop-up events. We're celebrating Pride, happy to partner with Seafair, really looking forward to being a part of that parade in the day this time, which will be really great for downtown, I believe. Buskers, food trucks, so I could go on and on, but we have programming Occidental Square, Westlake Park, other parks, and happy to invite everybody downtown this summer. So
Right.
please take part.
All right. Thank you, Jen Casillas from DSA.
I'm just going to say that I am so excited to hear all of this activity. It is really thrilling to know that we're working collaboratively this way to really ignite the city. People want to get out, and all of this is it's thrilling. I'm excited.
Yeah, and here's a question from an audience member. So much going on. Yay, all caps. How is the city helping out with safety, perception issues? How can we as civic citizens help get the word out that Seattle is safe and vibrant? Who wants to take that?
I'll take it.
All right.
Because I've been working very closely with the city, including starting with the mayor's office, first of all. And I have to say, I've done events in Seattle for a lot of years, and this administration currently has been incredibly supportive and committed to making Seattle be ready to host these events. So, of course, it will not be perfect. No city ever is. But I have been really grateful for their commitment to that. So, we have standing meetings weekly with SPD talking about where their emphasis patrols are, where the regular staffing is, working with SDOT and WashDOT and City Light and all of these various agencies to ensure that lighting is improved around the stadium district. The mayor, of course, had his One Seattle Day of Service where we cleaned up the city. And we're doing another one to Roger's question, how can you help? There's one on June 23rd. And it's from 9 to noon. I'll put the link into the chat here. But that's being led by the Chamber of Commerce, Together Washington, and the Seattle Mariners to have that final kind of beautification, weeding, cleaning off graffiti, whatever is the need to ensure that the city looks great for the All-Star game. So there's lots of ways that the city has stepped up to just really try to take down the barriers to make sure that we can execute it successfully.
Yeah, I think that question about perception is interesting, though, because people will make decisions based on what they remember from recent years. Some people will. So I feel like if this summer is successful in terms of events going off without a hitch, lots of people showing up, people having good experiences, that makes it that much easier for next summer to be, or even this holiday season to be more successful than the previous one. It feels like there's just this requirement to kind of just execute and execute well. Because perception, that question comes up in almost all these conversations we have about downtown revitalization, downtown post-pandemic recovery, is how you overcome that drumbeat in certain strains of the media that's it's all about the bad stuff and the isolated instance of bad stuff that does, and then missing the bigger picture about safety and about perception. But I think all the stuff that Jen was talking about, activating those spaces, having people there in person, good weather, I think will help too. Good weather that's not too hot and not smoky, I think is really, I worry about the smoke a lot when I think about the weeks and months ahead of this summer and all the things that we want to happen and to go off smoothly. And Jen mentioned this notion about you guys meeting and cooperating together. Give me a sort of a report card on how Seattle works in terms of going after big events, executing repeat events, whether it's Seafair or Bite of Seattle or Bumbershoot at Seattle Center. Do we work together well? Are there elements missing in the partnerships or the approach here that you'd like to see in place? Eric, why don't you take a whack at that one?
Yeah, actually, I think the working together, I think we gave a little peek behind the curtain here when Jennifer was speaking about how we've all worked together in one way or another, supporting each other's events across the summer. The downtown Seattle, and do people feel safe in the downtown Seattle question? 3 months ago, we were talking with DSA as well as the Seattle Chamber about their messaging and how they're doing that and how we can be able to align with that messaging in Seafair. And one of the things is to be able to talk about how the excitement of the events and being able to come downtown. Another side of it is just to being really frank with people about their expectations and be able to say, well, yes, Seattle police are on site. Like will be visible. We have this daytime event. We have fencing along the parade route. We've taken all these precautions and whatnot. And when people have questions about that, answering that really in a very direct manner. And again, we're really trying to break down I think I know what downtown is like because I saw it on television 2 years ago versus what downtown is really like today. And there are shops, there's restaurants, there's things to do. We have these events that have all this entertainment with it, and that are in Seattle, from Seattle Center to the stadiums to what DSA is doing and what Seafair is doing. And I think this is just an effort to be able to educate people about that downtown isn't what they saw on TV 2 years ago during the pandemic, and this place is different and it's exciting and they can come be a part of it, and it's for them. It's for families, and this place, it's part of the parts. It's not 100% perfect. It's not 100% safe all the time every day, but these events are set up to be able to create those environments where we are safer to be able to join and celebrate together.
Okay. And Chelsea, in terms of Seattle Center, the events, I mean, there have been talk about, hard to find people to fill in certain particular jobs and everything like that. Are there any issues, like headwinds facing big events at Seattle Center this summer?
I don't think so. I think collectively, we've been doing a great job of working with our promoters who are trying to come back after a rough time, having been shut down doing live events. So we're finding ways to support them. We are excited about the partnership in our one of our big resident orgs, the arena, Climate Pledge Arena, that sits on our campus. They've been a great partner in hosting their events, which also supports what we're doing on the campus. People come down, they ride the monorail, they take public transportation to go to the events that are happening at the arena. But before they go to the arena, they like to come and have a meal or enjoy the campus. We have been fortunate enough that during the hockey season, we had activations inside of our armory where we would show the game, and we've had watch parties. So, you know, while we are not unique to what is going on in the city, this city wants to enjoy events, and we are at the Seattle Center doing everything we can to support that type of enthusiasm. So I've had the fortunate opportunity to live in different large cities, Los Angeles and New York and DC, and I'm enthused by the same feeling that those big cities have. Seattle has that same type of enthusiasm. So focusing on all of the activity that is happening around the area is a good thing. I agree with Beth that this particular administration is really focused on making sure that they're working to have a safe environment, and also they are working collaboratively with the entrepreneurs and the small businesses that are downtown, because that's an important part of kind of our ecosystem of getting people back downtown, is making sure that the spaces that they live in are safe. And so we want people to go to those spaces. We want people to stop by and visit the Space Needle. We want people to go to the events at the arena, and we want people to come to the Seattle Center. It is an iconic space that is here for everyone to enjoy.
And let's talk a little bit about sort of the immediate future as well as the distant future, because the things we're talking about in this, sizzling Seattle summer, there's a lot going on. I mean, everything down at the parks that Jen was talking about in downtown, and then the Major League All-Star Week, Bite of Seattle, Bumbershoot, almost getting back to be kind of the pre-pandemic where just all this stuff's going on and everyone's excited about it. But it's also up a few notches, I think, in terms of sophistication and just, people's expectations and the changing population that's moved here in the last, 10 years. We may, like, would you call us a big, small city or a small, big city? But we're different than we were a decade ago. It's a more diverse population. There's people who moved here from elsewhere. The city's changing. Now, with all the stuff that's planned for this summer and that's going on, is this a test case for how the city can manage hosting even bigger events in the future, even more sophisticated, larger events that draw even bigger crowds? I mean, there's so much. Sometimes there's people complain about, oh no, the monorail is not going to be able to handle all that Kraken traffic. Seems like it worked out great, and parking is going to be a bear, that sort of thing. But is this? Are we looking at is the sizzling Seattle summer also kind of a test case Seattle summer? Beth, you want to take a whack at that one?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. We have repeatedly talked about that with all of the city agencies and the stakeholders we're working with, that the MLB All-Star, as well as Bumbershoot and Seafair, all coming back together at the same time. This is serving as a template for how we become more efficient and effective at hosting these large-scale events going forward. One of the things that I did with the special events department for the city of Seattle is to create something called Region Ready. And it starts with a kind of an org chart, if you will, of the process of securing or getting an RFP, here's an idea. Do we want to host a World Cup in 2026? And then we get the buy-off from at the highest level, the mayor, the county exec, the governor, and as well as the league ownership, et cetera. And then once we agree to do that and we are awarded that event, then it goes to, you have the policy tier of leaders that can clear away problems or obstacles, because now we have agreed and their bosses have agreed to, we're going to host this. And then it goes to the operational level, all of those department heads that are executing on this. What we did in April is we hosted a Region Ready Summit, and it was, we invited stakeholders in the community. Visit Seattle was our partner on that, as well as the Seattle Mariners. And we informed everyone in that room, here's what's happening with MLB All-Star, so that they can then leverage that to be successful and to amplify it for themselves throughout the event. On September 20th, and I wanted to share that with this group, we're going to host another Region Ready. This year will be an exception that will hold 2 of them, but we'll hold a follow-up so that we can debrief on what worked, what didn't with an MLB All-Star. How can we establish better best practices? And then we'll start to talk about future events, including the 2026 World Cup. So creating a template, this is the year to do it. And I think we have an opportunity to also look at these other large events that are annual institutional events in Seattle and how they integrate into the one-off events that are coming in and then leaving. So it's a great opportunity for us.
So that Region Ready, was that previously sort of like an ad hoc or kind of just event by event kind of approach before the Sports Commission?
It only took place 1 year in 2019. And at that point, the theme of it was, hey, what would it take to host a Super Bowl or a big event of any sort?
Oh, wait, what was the answer about the Super Bowl question? I want to hear this.
Well, we had a great panel of speakers around the Super Bowl, and they were from the NFL and from the Super Bowl selection committee, as well as a representative from Houston who has hosted Super Bowl. And it was really that high level discussion around what does it take for a city to be considered for something of this magnitude? What does it take to actually execute on that? We also had representatives from the US Open that was held down in Chambers Bay. So, one of the things that came out of it actually was someone from one of the teams said, we really need that 1-800 big events number that we can call to say, how do we produce a big event? Who do we contact? And that was inspiration for the Sports Commission to really say, we'll be that 1-800 big events. We'll be that resource that you can start with. And we have those connections to the city and to all of the stakeholders like Seattle Center, using Seafair's volunteers for some of these one-off events. It's a great connection and integration of all the partners in Seattle. So that's one of the things that came out of the first Region Ready. And then we didn't have it, of course, through the pandemic. Yeah. So the last April was the first one since 2019. And now we'll hold it on an annual basis going forward.
That's great. Now, just to dwell on the Super Bowl for a minute, I mean, is there a formal process and then also probably some very informal kind of lobbying or some political thing that nobody's really privy to that picks where that happens?
Well, sure. I mean, it's like anything. There is some informal lobbying, and that goes back to that expression of interest. And so the ownership of the pro teams, they make it known at their ownership meetings with the commission, with the league, and then it begins the process. So there is the Super Bowl is awarded number of years out. What I think is more realistic in the near future for Seattle is hosting an NFL draft or an NHL draft. Some of these big events that are new to our region, but by hosting those, and of course we have FIFA World Cup coming up, that suddenly changes the landscape. It changes Seattle's reputation, and it puts us in the category of a world-class sports market. So then we become very appealing to a Super Bowl host committee that is, or a selection committee that is considering where do we want to go in the future.
So a draft event by itself doesn't necessarily have the economic impact that would make your eyebrows go up, but it could lead to something that does. Is that the short version of that?
Well, I would actually say that an NFL draft now has a much higher economic impact than it ever used to. It is a premier event that is very significant in its the connections that it makes, and the driver of hotel room nights. There's such a huge draw from a spectator standpoint, and it's national TV. So, there's other events like the Major League Baseball draft will actually happen in Seattle during the All-Star game. It's a very different size and scope, and just a different perspective of how they execute at Major League Baseball for the draft. NFL and NHL are enormous events.
And I know how exciting it was last summer, I guess last October, when the Mariners were in the playoffs for the first time in 21 years or whatever it had been. And I didn't go to any of the games, but just the vibe, everyone was paying attention, just kind of the I don't know, the electricity in the air. And same thing with the Kraken recently. There's no substitute for having that playoff energy in a town, even if you're not paying that close attention to the sports. It's just everybody's like keyed up. Everyone feels connected to the city in a way that they don't always feel, in a really positive way. And I know your organization has no say over where the World Series will be located in any given year, and that's up to a whole different set of people. But what other events are you looking at for? I know you have to look many years, probably a decade in advance in some cases. Can you give us a preview of some of the other things that your organization is looking towards securing for Seattle?
Yeah, sure can. And there's lots of things that are in our sights for bringing into the city. Some are confirmed, and some are in the bid process right now. But I keep saying the FIFA World Cup, which is just a massive thing for us, and a great opportunity. That's in 26. In the near future, this fall, we have the out at Magnuson Park. It's the National Gay Flag Football Tournament, and I'm sorry, it's the Gay Bowl is what it's called, and that will be a mid-sized event, I would say. And then on January 1st, we are very fortunate to be hosting the NHL Winter Classic, which is a real coup for Seattle to host this. That'll take place at T-Mobile Park. It's an outdoor hockey game. It'll be between the Seattle Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights. We're very lucky that we have a roof over T-Mobile Park, so you will close it halfway. So it'll cover the rink and protect it, but it'll still be an outdoor event. So that's coming up. It's just to kick off 2024. But we're also looking ahead to events. We're anticipating that we will host in the next 2 to 3 years a WNBA All-Star game, where we'll be bringing back the AVP Beach Volleyball Tournament at some point in the next couple of years. And then going ahead even to the future, we are very interested in bidding on, assuming that the US and Mexico wins the bid for the Women's World Cup in 2027, then we would love to host that on the heels of the Men's World Cup in 26. And then even further out than that is we have started the bid process for the Men's and Women's Rugby World Cup. And that would be in 2031 and 2033. So that may seem like a long ways out, but anybody that does events knows that the clock moves very fast when you're on a deadline to host these events that require a lot of planning and preparation.
Now, do we have all the venues that we need to be able to do all the things that you want to do, or are there like pieces missing in the infrastructure puzzle that you would love to be able to wave a magic wand and have in place?
Well, yes, and I can't claim to have waved the magic wand, but the one that I'm most excited about that has been a void in our region is the rebuild of Memorial Stadium. That size venue has been that's a missing piece for me because not every event can or should be in a Climate Pledge Arena or even a Lumen Field and T-Mobile Park. So there are those events that have a smaller audience, but and they want to have that close interaction with the players, like the Premier Lacrosse League. The PLL is a great example. They have the players and fans have a very close connection, and they want to be able to sign autographs easily. You can't do that in some of these bigger venues. So the opportunity to host some of these events that are mid-size in a memorial stadium, and then it just opens up so many doors, because we know that with the proposed renderings of the new Memorial Stadium and how that opens up to the campus of Seattle Center, also allows us to consider really large events like an NFL draft, for instance, where you need to have a lot of space to host a lot of people.
Yeah. And now we talked about this a little bit in our meeting earlier this week. I mean, those are all tangible things, right? These particular venues and particular pieces of infrastructure. But, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier as well, this sort of the Seattle exceptionalism. Are there things about Seattle that you can't really point to, or you can't really demonstrate with any real evidence other than kind of a gut feeling, that give us a leg up and make us a place that's more attractive? The way Seattle continues to attract people, businesses, despite so many headwinds other places, Seattle continues to kind of fight its way through and continue to grow and expand and evolve. What is it about the city? In the work you guys do, the three of you, we'll start with you, Eric. Is there something about Seattle that's different and special? And maybe this is too boosterish and Pollyanna-ish, but I love this kind of stuff. I want to give you a chance to tell me if I'm right or tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I think that I think there's if we talk about this kind of behind the scenes, how we work with each other, there's this understood community that we all know that this is the purpose of what we're trying to be able to go build these events for, whether it's bringing people in from out of town or the folks that live here. And that, from everyone from working with, Beth and Chelsea and folks at at various venues, to the folks when you're talking with the police and fire at the city. Those folks understand that these events aren't just things for bean counters to track how much money we spent on cops or firefighters or whatnot. Like, they mean something, and it's important for them to be able to exist and flourish and also change as we move forward. I think that's an important part of that. I think there's also some vision in this city with the opening of the waterfront. I think the light rail is going to be a huge thing that's going to happen to the city when we can finally go across the bridge and north and south with it. I think that there's all sorts of untapped potential of being able to easily move people in and out of the city to be able to experience these things. And again, I think that's all part of that larger vision of being able to, like, how do we fit into that, and how do we enhance each other's work rather than see each other as competitors and kind of tear that down.
What about you, Chelsea?
I completely agree. I think what is happening on the waterfront and the announcement that we're able to kind of move the process forward now with Memorial Stadium that just came out this morning, are the opportunity that we have to connect to downtown, the opportunity that we have to connect with the Pike Place Market. What we are seeing here is truly a revitalization. It's the opportunity for us to have a walker-friendly city. So when people come to one place, they're able to quickly head to another spot to have a different type of experience. And we're not trying to make it difficult. We are really sincerely trying to make this a city that, with the influx of new people that are moving here from larger cities, we want them to have some of those same experiences that they've left, because we want to work to cultivate a larger kind of experience that is inclusive, that is about sports, that is about arts, that is about entertainment. And you also get this beautiful backdrop, which is, the waterfront, which are the mountains. So I really, really believe that we have something unique to offer people that are here, that are living here, and that want to experience entertainment.
And for those who might not have heard the news, I know it's early and you can't really sketch out specific details. Can you give me kind of the short version of what's the news about Memorial Stadium was this morning?
Yes, so we had several proposers that we engaged with around revitalizing and renovating the Memorial Stadium. And the announcement today in the Seattle Times is that we are moving forward with conversations with One Roof. And it's a nonprofit organization that we're excited to continue conversations with. Beth mentioned the renderings that are certainly for public disclosure. It does allow us to open up the campus to look at different opportunities that allow us to engage with other sports organizations, allow us to engage with the Seattle Public School District to reimagine how they host their own events. So this is a really exciting time for us, as well as for the campus.
And for those who don't know, the relationship between One Roof and Climate Pledge Arena is what exactly?
One Roof is the nonprofit arm of Climate Pledge Arena.
Okay. So Memorial Stadium then potentially gets the Climate Pledge Arena treatment in terms of upgrade and reconnection and everything. But not my favorite,
That's
not my
right.
favorite preservation option, unfortunately. Now, Beth, one of the things you mentioned the other day when we were talking, I wanted to ask you about, it was sort of this, I don't want to name any names or point any fingers, but you talked about cynicism in other locations and something that was sort of not present to the same degree in Seattle. And you cited a really specific reference about a retail location. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of going back to comments from both Chelsea and Eric. I had the opportunity to go to LA last summer for the MLB All-Star game that LA hosted. And, one of the things that really struck our leadership group that was there is how spread out LA is, and how you had to drive or take a shuttle bus to all of the different events. And so there was that factor that made me really appreciate our compact environment in downtown Seattle. But also there was a bit of the perspective from the residents and people that worked in LA that, yeah, another big event. Now we'll have a Super Bowl. Now we'll have an Olympics. And there was just a level of ambivalence, frankly. And Seattle is so excited to host these events. So I love that aspect of it. And then I also love how collaborative our stakeholders in Seattle are. And I see this happen all the times with our professional teams. They like at Sue Bird's retirement, Jersey retirement celebration last Sunday, there were over 100 representatives from the other professional sports teams that came out to cheer her on. And another example is we're working with the vacant Nike storefront downtown to have pop-up stores representing the teams. So you could have go to one location for merchandise. So lots of great ways that we're collaborating.
Well, we're about out of time, so I hope maybe in 20 years we can work toward having the same kind of ambivalence that LA has. Is that the goal of the Seattle Sports Commission?
Never, not in Seattle.
All right. Well, I want to thank our panelists: Eric Corning of Seafair, Beth Knox of the Seattle Sports Commission, Chelsea Riddick-Most of Seattle Center, and Jen Casillas from DSA. I want to thank you for joining us today for DSA Virtual Access. Thanks as always to the fabulous DSA staff: John Scholes, Sally Wright, James Cito, and Simon Villanuevo. And coming up in this sizzling Seattle summer, all the things we talked about: MLB All-Star Week, Seafair, Bite of Seattle, 50th anniversary of Bumbershoot, all that great stuff happening downtown because of Downtown Seattle Association. Get out and participate in the beautiful weather. And don't forget, the DSA mid-annual meeting will be held 2 weeks from today on Thursday, June 29th at the Mariners' new venue, Box Yard at Victory Hall. Registration and more info at downtownseattle.org. Until then, I'm Felix Bonnell on behalf of DSA. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we will see you downtown.